Hello, afternoon. I hope you are well. Hope you're safe and you're staying at home. So welcome to this live Q&A stream, live from my craft room. So this is a little bit different. So over the past month, we've gone live on YouTube where we've done a pre-recorded video. And then we've kind of released that as a premiere where we've all tuned in together to watch it live. So we've always been on the chat side of things, over to the right or the left. I'm not sure which way you can see. It's probably the right. So we've always been in the chat to answer your questions and to just be there for you. So this time we're doing it a little bit different. So last week, Todd trialed out this brand new method. So this is where we're actually streaming our demonstrations live. This is by no means a pre-recorded video. We are 100% live. However, I'm probably about 20 seconds ahead of you. So in terms of questions, obviously I'm a little bit ahead, so hopefully I can jump in occasionally and see where I can help out. Otherwise, we've got Todd and some other members of the Vectric team on hand in the chat. So hopefully they can answer questions that I just don't get to. So it's lovely to see a lot of you coming through. So I'm just reading through the stream here. Yep, Breakfast with Beki sounds about right. So yes, so we're going to go and just get on with this project. Right then, so I hear that it is Mother's Day soon, and we're all at home, and we've all got CNC machines in our workshops, so I thought that I'd create a little project that would be perfect for moms, grands, aunties and all of the lovely ladies in the world, and I'm sure that they'll appreciate this project, and better still, it's going to be a free download for you to just download straight away and cut on your CNC machine. Right then, so let's get to it. This Mother's Day project, with all my projects, I always look along the internet or even in stores for inspiration for things to make, and I came across this button. Okay, and I thought, oh, that's really quite cool. The quote on it reads exactly as to what mothers are. Mothers are like buttons and they hold everything together. And I'm sure that a lot of you can relate to that. So I seen this and I thought, oh, do you know what? This is cool. I'm going to use this as the base for my inspiration. Now, there's a famous quote by Picasso, and he says that good artists copy and great artists steal. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're not going to copy this button. We're going to take it as part of our inspiration, and we're going to steal that idea and make it better. That's what we should always do. We should always credit where we seen something from originally, and then strive to make it better, to make it your own. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to show you how to create a 3D button. We're going to put the text in. It's all going to be created in VCarve. Okay, so that means VCarve Desktop, VCarve Pro and Aspire users can all make use of this project. It's all 3D and it was all made in VCarve. So let's have a look at how we're going to create this in the software. Right then, so some of the techniques that we are going to cover, we're going to look, as I mentioned, we're going to create 3D in VCarve, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at some assembly tips and tricks. So we're looking at all things here to do with model assembly, so how to organise your componentry, working with different levels, looking at combine modes, all of those sorts of things. We're going to make use of the free Clipart that comes with VCarve. So we're just taking what we already have and we're basically turning it into something else. With that as well, we're going to be looking at a new feature that we added in version 10 last year, and that is level clipping. So level clipping just enables us to basically clip away areas of a 3D model that we don't want to be seen in the actual composite model. And this is a real kind of game changer for VCarve, especially when creating 3D parts. All the times before, VCarve users haven't been able to essentially clip away parts of their components. That really is more of an Aspire feature because it's a modeling tool, but we introduced level clipping. It's basically where we can kind of hide away some of the component in the actual composite model. Now, for those of you that have been following our Instagram channels over at Design and Make and on Vectric, you'll know that Todd has been doing some cool little tips and tricks videos how to use Design and Make Clipart in Vectric software, and there's some of those videos where he does cover level clipping beautifully. So after this video, take a look at those videos as well. You can find them on the Design and Make YouTube channel as well as on Design and Make's Instagram channel. So all the information you need there for level clipping is available. So that's the 3D side of things. So now we're going to look at 2D drawing. So what we're going to look at in terms of the 2D stuff. So I'm going to show you how to create text. So we're going to look at how we can basically draw some text. So the mothers are like buttons, they hold everything together. And we're going to look at how we can wrap that around a vector. On top of that, we're going to look at some real nice smart snapping techniques in order for us to create our buttonholes. And then we're going to move on into the toolpath creation. Okay, so we're going to jump in. So I just want to, I am trying to read the live chat at the same time. So just hello to everyone that's joined in. Really appreciate you guys being with us today. We've been doing these as a means to kind of interact with you guys, to keep you busy. It's just something, if anything, you're going to learn something, hopefully, but more than anything, at least this kind of just takes you away from the reality of the craziness that's going on for half an hour or so. It's probably going to be a little bit longer than that because I'm kind of waffling on right now. Right then, so let's just jump straight into VCarve. Okay, so in here we're going to go and we're going to create a new file. So in the software, I can find my mouse, there it is. We're going to go with this single-sided job. We're only working with one side here. And then we're going to go with a width of 11 and a height of 11 as well. Okay, so 11, 11, and then we're going to go with a material thickness of 0.6 of an inch. I'm going to set my Z0 position to the top of our material surface. XY datum position, I'm going to put that in the lower left hand corner. This is purely because that's the way it's set up on my CNC, so obviously if yours is different then change that. And as we are working with 3D in this example, we must pay attention to our modeling resolution. In this case I'm going to go with a very high modeling resolution. So the more points that we have in our job, the better quality of model we're going to have. Obviously, if you go too high, it's going to have an effect on the progress of the software itself. So very high, it seems to do wonders in this case. So we'll go with that. And then we could go ahead and press OK. Right then, so we are going to start by creating the 3D part of this to begin with. So in that case, we're going to jump straight in to the modeling tab and we're going to tile our windows. So we've got the 2D view on the left and we've got the 3D view on the right hand side. So for any of you that have watched my tutorials before or have sat in one of my presentations, you'll know that I'm a believer of keeping everything organized within the file. So right from the get-go, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to rename this level by right-clicking on that. Use the option here to rename level, and we're just going to call this one button. Okay, so that's that. So levels are basically how we organize our components. So anything that I add in now will be added into this level. So we're going to look at our first piece of clip art that's going to form the actual border of our button. So to get our clip art, we simply head over into our clip art tab, which you can locate on the left side of your software. And then under library folders, we've got clip art. And if I click on that, it will display all of the subfolders of clip art that I've already downloaded. Now, if you've not yet downloaded your clip art, then you can do so from your V&Co account. So if you head over to portal.vectric.com, you can get that from there. Right then, so we are going to look at the decorative section. So you can see we've got all sorts of clip art that's available to us, quite a lot there in the decorative section. A little top tip for you here, if you'll notice at the top portion of where the clip art thumbnails are displayed, we've got 3 different icons. If I click on this one, that will show all of the clip art in a much smaller thumbnail, which is really easy for us to just browse through very quickly at all of that we have available. We've got a medium size icon and we've got a larger size icon. I prefer the larger one myself purely because I'm able to see more detail within the clip art if there's anything that I kind of find useful from it, in which case I do. It's this one here. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this into my job. So if I double click on that, that will automatically position that in the center of our job as well. So that's another little top tip for you there. Okay, so with that selected, we're just going to hold down shift and we're just going to scale that up. So holding down shift will basically scale that in proportion, and that does that nicely for us. So with that scaled up, obviously we've scaled X and Y, but we've also scaled the Z height here. So we're going to look at editing that right now. So to do that, if we go back into the modeling tab, we're going to go into this rent icon here. So this is the properties form. This gives us loads of information about the component in terms of its Z height and how it interacts with any other components that we may introduce later on. Right then, so we've currently got a shape height just shy of 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to decrease that down. We're going to put it to 375 and then press space, and that will just update that for us. And you can see that's done that there, okay? Right then, so I'm happy with that. We'll just put that back in the Z view and then we can close out. Right then, so as I mentioned, I'm only interested in this border, okay? I'm not interested in anything else on the inside. If I had a spire, I could just draw a vector circle and then remove everything inside. As we're in VCarve, we're going to look at doing a similar thing, but using the clipping function. So to do that, we need to draw a vector. We need some vectors to basically tell the software, what do I want to clip away? So we're going to go and draw a circle because I only want to keep this part of our border, the very outside. So I want to draw a circle that's kind of going to hit this kind of grey area here. So to do that, we're just going to go into the drawing tab and we're going to draw a circle. Now you'll notice that the moment I've gone into a new action, in this case to draw a circle, the 2D representation of my component has kind of been faded away. Why is that? If we just close out, and then if I click on that, once we highlight it, we can actually see all the details there. And then when we click off, we don't see anything. And that's all just down to the bitmap fading. And that can be easily adjusted. So to do that, we click on our 2D grayscale. And if we right click, we can use this option here, object properties, and this will enable us to increase or decrease the fading of bitmaps that aren't selected. And when we close it, and if I click out now, it just remains the same. This is much easier for me to kind of get a gauge of where I want to draw my circle in comparison to the actual model itself. So we're going to go back into the draw a circle tool. I'm going to start from the center. So you're making use of my smart snapping. You can see that I'm snapping to the center of my job here, and I can draw a circle out and it will come out directly in the center. Click that. Right click to come out then. Let's just take a look. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller than the border. So I'm just going to maximize the 2D view for now. I'm going to take our circle. So it's now in transform mode. How do I know that? Because I can see the handle here, so I can move it, or I can look at altering the size of that. Now if I hold down shift whilst clicking on this handle, that will enable me to scale that up in proportion. I'm just going to bring that around about here. So I'm at that line now. So that's pretty much it. I'm just going to get a vector as well to go around the outside of our circle. So again, back into the draw a circle, snap to the middle, and then roughly make that a little bit bigger than, or at least around the edge of our part. I want to bring that in a little bit closer. So we'll hold down shift just to make sure that's just touching, and there we have our two vectors. Okay, so if I tile the windows, we're going to basically take these two vectors and we're going to tell the software, I want you to clip everything outside of these vectors. So it's going to remove everything inside here, and if there was anything out on this side, it would remove that as well. So with that, we're going to go over into the modeling tab. So how do we apply this clipping effect? So it's really easy. In our level, all we need to do is right click here and say clipping. Okay, and you can see in the composite model, it has removed all of the rest of the information inside of that circle away because we've told it to clip away. And this is all down to the clipping effect being a property of a level rather than it doing anything to the component itself. In terms of the component, that will always be there. We can see it here in the 2D view. We can see it ghosted out here, but as part of our composite model and what we see here, that's down to the level effect. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted to see here. Right then, so that's our border there. Next up, we're going to look at creating the flat border. So you'll remember the flat border that is going to go around the inside of this newly created border where we're going to apply our text to. So to do that and keeping organized, we're just going to insert a new level. We're going to rename this level and we're just going to call this one border, like so. And then we just want a flat shape here. So the easiest way for us to get a flat shape is to apply a zero plane. Okay, with that level selected, we can see it's in bold. That means that it's the active level, the same way that we treat our layers. So any components that I add now will be automatically added into this level. And that's exactly what I want to do. So we're going to click on this zero plane button, and that's going to create a plane with, yep, you've guessed it, a height of 0. That's why we call it the zero plane. Okay, so it just fills our whole job space with a plane that has 0 height. So you're probably thinking, well, why can't I see that in the 2D view? Well, with zero planes, when we use this option here, we automatically create a zero plane layer. If I switch the visibility of that on, we can see that component, and we do that just so that it doesn't really interfere with anything else. Okay, so that's why that's there. Okay, so now we're going to look at we want to basically add some height to the zero plane, and we want to crop out a circle in the center of it, so we're just left with a kind of donut shape. So with that, what we need to do is just take our zero plane, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to give that some height. Okay, so I'll tell you what, actually, we'll skip that a second. Let's just create the actual shape we want first. So we need to draw another circle. So if we go and draw a circle, we're going to snap to the center point like we did earlier. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw out a circle. Okay, so roughly somewhere like that. And then I'm going to draw another circle that's going to sit in the middle of our border. Okay, so somewhere like that will do. Close out. I'm going to shift and select those two vectors, and then we're going to go into the modeling tab, and we're going to go into the border level, where we can then simply use this option to clip that away. That will clip everything away. So just so you can see what's happened here, if I just switch off the button level, you can see that donut shape that I was talking about, where we've clipped that zero plane with these two vectors that we've got selected there. Okay, right then, so just to come into the chat, I just want to thank Todd at Vectric for answering all of these questions. Yeah, this is great stuff. So thanks for getting on to the admin kind of questions for me. This is perfect. Any questions regards the project, I'm happy to jump in and answer those. So thank you. Right then, so back to the project. So we've got our zero plane donut shape. So what we need to do is we need to give it some height. So let's just switch on the button, and then we're going to go and add in some height. So we can do that by going into the properties. So we want to give this a height of 0.3 in this case. So just again to make you all aware, when I am coming up with these numbers, I have actually created these projects. I have created this project before. So I kind of I've tweaked around with different settings to see what works best, and then I'm just kind of just running through that again with you guys. I'm sure I did see a question actually that has reminded me. We had a question from, sorry, I'm just kind of going through the stream. Okay, I'm sure I saw a question about, here we go. How many hours of work go into prepping one of these? Well, okay, so in terms of this particular project, I created the initial project last Thursday, I believe. So it's where I kind of come up with the Wednesday or Thursday, come up with the idea, share it with the rest of the guys. Like, yeah, that's okay. We can go with that. Hopefully they like it. And then it's just a case of like this morning I'd have just gone through it, trying to talk myself through what's going on. So it kind of comes across perfect to you guys. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, I'd say for this button project, it took me probably, I don't know, after seeing the original image that I took my inspiration from, I'd say it took about an hour and a half, like to get the toolpath side of things correct as well, and then messing around with the clipping and different Cliparts, different Clipart models, to really kind of get the best model that I could out of it. So yeah, a couple of hours. Thanks. Right then, so back to the actual project itself. So now that we've added that height, okay, so in the height we can see we've got some interesting results here. Why is this happening? Well, that's all down to our component tree, okay? So our border level is sat on top of our button level, and our border level is currently set to add. So that is adding on top of the border, on top of the button, and that's why we're seeing this effect here. Simple fix, all we need to do is simply go to our combine mode and then just set that to merge, and it will blend in, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. Right then, so that's pretty much the border done. So now we've just got to create this dome shape that's going to sit in the middle of our button. Quite typically, buttons do have this kind of protruding shape in the center. So that's kind of what I wanted to replicate here. Right then, so as always, let's keep that component tree organized. So we're going to insert a new level, right click, rename that level, and then we're going to call this one the dome. Okay. Whilst we're at it, let's help ourselves out by setting the combine mode of this to merge so that it already blends in with our current composite model. Okay, so domes. Where am I going to get a dome from? So in your Clipart tab, we have a folder dedicated to domes and dishes. Quite typically we do use these for dishes to put other pieces of Clipart inside, but in this case we are going to use this as a dome. I'm going to take dome dish 30 and then we can double click to bring that into the center of our job, okay? So there it is in the center. We're just going to size this up a little bit in terms of the X and Y dimensions. So to do that, let's just do that in proportions. I'm going to hold down Shift on this, and then we're just going to increase that ever so slightly. Okay, might be a little bit too big, so I'm just going to bring that back down again. And if we zoom in, I'm just going to bring it down a little bit more. Okay, so somewhere like that. That seems to be okay. Okay, right then, so there is our dome dish, okay, and we just need to tinker with the actual heights of that. Okay, now I've shown you how you can alter the properties of a component whilst I've showed you how to alter the properties of a component whilst in the modeling tab. Now I'm going to show you how you can do that just whilst we're in the 3D view. Now if you click on this little blue square, and if we click that, that'll bring up this floating properties form dialog, and we can alter the height, the base height. We can add fades and tilts and alter the combine modes all from here. So we're going to do that. So we're going to make the shape height of this to be 0.2 and just space to accept that. Okay, so that's just going to shallow that out a little bit, but we're also going to add in a base height. So we're just going to increase that and give that some vertical base height in there just to lift that up a little bit. Close out and we can take a look. Okay, so you can see we've got this nice rounded dome, very shallow dome, but it's subtle, but it works. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So that is everything you need to know in terms of the 3D stuff for this project. Right then, so now what we can do is we can head over and start thinking about all of the 2D stuff. So we're looking at text, we're going to look at creating the buttonholes. Okay, so over into the drawing tab, and what we'll do is we'll just maximize the 2D view as well. Press F to fit that to screen. It's really good actually to get used to some shortcut keys and learn them. It just helps your workflow progress much quicker when you get to know all the different keys rather than you having to find the icon and things like that. So F will fit your job to the actual screen size itself. Okay, right then, so now that we've got our parts, we're going to now create the text. So to draw text, we simply go over to the Create Vectors section, and then we're going to use the option here to draw text there. Okay, so some things to point out. Okay, I can click anywhere around my job and I can see where that text is going to be positioned. I can see the size of it judging by this box, which is super handy for me to kind of, especially here, I can line that up to this part because we are putting the text inside of these two vector circles here, and I can see at that height it's actually fitting in there quite nice. So I'm going to go with that, so that's 0.7. I can see how it's aligned by looking at this little blue square. It's currently left aligned, center aligned, and then right aligned. Okay, so I'm going to move that back to the left, and then I can simply start typing what it is that I'd like to write. Okay, so in here we're going to put in that beautiful phrase, mothers are like buttons, comma, and then they hold everything together. Right then, hopefully that's all correct. Yeah, buttons, they hold everything together. Wonderful. Okay, so this font, I like this font, script empty bold. Okay, some little points on fonts. The software will actually pull out your fonts based on the fonts that are already installed on your Windows machine. Okay, so whatever you've got on your Windows machine, this is what it will pull out from the drop down list. If you wanted to install one, go ahead and install it, and then if you just I think you just got to close and open your software again and it will be updated. Or at least close out of the create text tool and then it will automatically pull that out. And then in terms of fonts as well, some nice things that you can do is if you wanted to choose your font, you can just scroll through and you can basically go through those. Let's just get rid of all the @ ones because they're just silly fonts that are vertical. So you can click through and you can see that we're constantly getting instant feedback on how that font looks, okay, which is good, especially when you're wanting to try it with different words. Now I like this font, so I'm going to go with that. We can close out and that's pretty much it, right? So there's our text. So now what we want to do is we want to take that text and we want to wrap it to this vector here. Okay, so we're going to take that vector, shift and select this vector. Okay, so that will just mean that they're both selected. We're basically saying to the software, look, I want to take this text and I want to wrap it around this vector. And then we're going to go over to this tool here, text on a curve, wrap text along a curve. Click on that. Now the software is saying, oh, the selected text is way too long to fit on a curve. Okay, but I'm going to help you out. So if we okay that, it's going to help us out because it's going to say, do you know what, we're just going to scale that text to fill the curve. Happy days. So I'm happy with that. Except now we've just got to kind of just tweak with some settings in the form on how we want this text positioned. Okay, so currently at the moment that text is actually on the wrong side. So if I click on this option here, you can click on text on the other side and then that will basically pop that on the right side. Okay, so you can see that there. So there's our vector, it's aligning that text beautifully to that circle. Now with characters, now we've got to bear in mind different fonts. Okay, so with this particular font you can see that I have some characters where we have this kind of cursiveness I can't think of the words, letters where the lower portion will sit below the line sometimes occurs. Okay, so we want to make sure that we align this text so it sits inside of the two vectors. So we're just going to look at creating an offset distance. So this offset distance will basically just offset it from the original vector. So for example, if I put in 0.1 in there, you'll see that that will move 0.1 away from our original vector. Okay, so that's a little bit too it's not useful at the moment. What we want to do is we want to just increase that a little bit more just to make sure that G is sat inside. So let's go for 0.3, see how that looks. Okay, so space to enter that in and that G is sat nice in there. We're not going past the outer vector either and I'm happy with that. Okay, so some other things just to point out whilst I'm on the text on a curve tool. We've got our text alignment. Okay, so it's currently on the left. Our start point is here, indicated by this blue square, and I can move that around wherever I like. Now I want that so it's the word mothers kind of starts at the kind of 9 o'clock position and goes around. But obviously it doesn't matter too much because it is a button. It's not going to really interfere with your design, but that's just worth knowing that you can move that around should you need to. Okay then, so I'm happy with what we've got there. So I'm just going to quickly take a look at the chat, see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. Okay, so Jeff Striker, yes, I've added several fonts during a design. You do have to close Aspire and reopen for the software to fetch newly added fonts. Thank you so much for that. That's perfect. Yes, I thought it was either way. You had to come out the form or come out all together. That's great. Okay, so David, once you wrap text to a curve, can you rotate the text around the model? Yes, you can. So if we close out, so I believe this could be what you mean. We just take that and then if we put our rotation point, okay, so I'm going to get my rotation handle. If If I click on that center point, you see that target? So that target just means this is now our rotation center. It's almost like our pivot point, and I can take any one of these handles and we can move that around like so. Okay, so I'm just going to undo that, but that's another way that you can do that. Right then, so we've got our text. Now we need to create our buttonholes. So with the buttonholes, I want to carefully position them so that they're at a nice distance away from each other. I'm going to have 4 buttonholes. I'm going to draw this up by making use of some startup geometry, and then we're going to look at some of the smart snapping options along with the mirror tools to help us achieve what I'm after. So to do that, we're going to go over into the Draw a Polyline tool. I'm going to snap to the top circle, snap to the bottom, okay? Right click to come out of the Polyline tool, and there is your vector. Right then, if we hit N on the keyboard, okay, N for November, or in this case, N for node edit, okay? And in here, we can basically see how this vector line is what it's formed of. Okay, we've got a start point, we've got one single span, we've got an end point. You'll notice as well we also have an indication of where the midpoint is on this vector itself. Okay, and we can click on that, or we could click anywhere on the span using the right mouse key, and we can use this option here to insert a midpoint. And you'll notice now that I've inserted that new midpoint, we now have a new kind of ghost midpoint here between this node and this node. Okay, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert another midpoint. This will kind of make sense as to why I'm doing this now. So the idea is I want to take this vector and I want to create a circle buttonhole that's going to be in line with this point here. And as well as that, I'd like to take this vector, I'm going to right click and just say copy. So Control C again. Learn your shortcut keys, they just make your workflow that much quicker. Okay, so Control C is to copy, and then another little shortcut key for you. If you press 9 on an object, that will rotate that in increments of 45 degrees about its center point. 0 just takes it back clockwise, so 9 is anti-clockwise, 0 is clockwise. So we're going to do that so it's now horizontal, and then we're going to right click and paste, or Control V to paste in the original vector. Now if I take both of those vectors and if we go into node edit mode, okay, so with version 10 we're now able to see multiple vectors within node edit mode, which is amazing. And this is useful now because we can see we've got that ghost midpoint here, we've got a ghost midpoint there. I want a circle that's going to be bang on in the middle of this intersection if we was to draw lines between these two parts. So we're going to draw a circle, okay? So if I hover over this line, you'll see that I'm able to snap to a point, and that is that ghost midpoint. So I'm snapping to that, and I'm just going to go with a diameter of 0.6. We can see that's written there, which is super handy. And then I'm going to right click to come out of the draw circle tool. So now what I want to do is I want to line that up with the ghost point on this side. So there it is, I'm snapping to that. I'm going to follow that up vertically, and you can see there I've got my intersection. Okay, perfect. Now I know that's in line where I want it to be, and I'm happy with that. For more information on your smart snapping options, simply go to edit, go to snap options, and everything you can see or you need to edit will be here. There's lots of tutorials on this. If you've not played with smart snapping, check out Introduction to Drawing Vectors. That'll tell you all about how to do that there. Right then, so now we've got our one buttonhole. We need to create a mirrored copy over to the right hand side, and we need to create them to the bottom as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that vector, we're going to go into the mirror tool. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to create a copy of that. So I'm going to say create a mirrored copy. I want to flip that about the center of our job. So we're going to make sure flip about center is selected, and we want to flip that horizontal. So I'm going to click on horizontal. Shortcut key to do that is Control Shift H, H for horizontal, okay? Close out. So now what we can do is we can shift and select both of these vectors, and we want to take both of these and we want to create a copy of them vertically about the job center. Okay, so with those selected, we're going to do this purely as a shortcut key method. So Control for your copy, Shift to flip that over the center, and then V for vertical. And there you have it. There's your 4 buttonholes. And then we can take those vectors and we can delete them. Right then, so we pretty much have everything that we need in terms of our model. We've got all the vectors that are required, and we can now go ahead and think about the toolpath side of things. Right then, so to do that, let's switch over to the toolpaths tab. Right, and so the first and most important thing that we need to do is check over our material setup. Okay, so here what we're doing is we're basically saying we're setting this up exactly as we're going to set up on our CNC machine. So make sure your thickness is as you've measured in your material. We're going to set the XY position in the lower left hand corner, which is down here, Z0 on the material surface, and then we need to set our model position in the material. So this lighter colour representation basically represents our model. So that is our composite model here. So we currently have a model thickness of 0.4. And with that 0.4, with that being 0.4 inches thick, and we're working with 0.6 thick material, we're going to drop that down. It's always good to drop that down just to help you avoid any inconsistencies in your material. Let's say you didn't measure it correctly and then you come to machine it and you could potentially be made aware of any flat spots. Okay, so we're just going to try and drop that in. So we've got a bit of material that we're going to machine away first until we actually reach the actual model itself, and then we're going to have a gap below of 0.15, which is okay in this case. It's going to give that a little bit of a nice thick base. As always, check over your rapid Z gaps above your material, your clearance, your plunge, home start positions, ensuring that they are all safe and appropriate for the material that you're using and the machine that you are using as well. Okay, so as always with any of our projects, if you come to download the project and you want to machine that on your machine, please ensure you check over all of the tool parameter settings, ensuring that they're safe and appropriate for the tools you're using, the material you're cutting into, and kind of the setup that you've got on your CNC. Right then, so first things first, we're going to start by doing some 3D machining. So 3D machining icons are here. We've got 3D roughing, 3D finishing. I'm going to start with a 3D roughing toolpath to begin with. So the 3D roughing toolpath is where we use a larger tool just to kind of take away a lot of the unnecessary material, and then you can we can go in afterwards with a smaller tool. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly jump in on the chat. Okay, so I may have missed a few of these things. So we've got a message from Jeff saying another way is help keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you that here if I can. So help, if you go to keyboard shortcuts, that is going to bring up your browser. Okay, let me just find my mouse. Okay, and that's going to bring that up here, and it just gives you a huge list of everything. So some people print this out and have it to hand just so they can kind of look and think, oh, do you know, I didn't know that. That's good to know. And then, but otherwise it's always there. Okay, so that's from your help menu, keyboard shortcuts. So thanks for pointing that out. Right then, so where are we? We're on the roughing machine toolpath. Okay, so we're going to use a tool, which is going to be the 1/4 inch end mill in this case. Okay, so to access your tool database, simply press select. You can access your tools. There's my 1/4 inch. I just want to check everything's safe for what I'm doing. It is, so I'm going to close out. Right, and now we need to specify where we want to machine to. In this case, I'm going to use a vector. We're going to use this vector here. So we're telling the software we want to machine everything inside of this vector. Okay, then we want to put in an offset. Now, typically your tool is the center of the tool will go to the actual vector that you're using as the boundary. Now, 3D stuff, ideally you want to have an offset so that tool can roll past the edge to cut the side, at least some part of the side of your model. So typically you want to go with an offset of the radius of your tool or a little bit more. In this case, I'm just going to go with the diameter of the tool here, so 1/4 inch. We're also going to use a machining allowance. Okay, so this is where we basically apply a skin of material for us to leave in so that that finishing toolpath can take that away. And it just means that let's say our 1/4 inch just doesn't damage the finished surface of our cutout. So we're just going to put that in there. Let me choose our strategy, whether we want to do that in a Z-level strategy or a 3D raster. I'm just going to go with a Z-level strategy. We're going to raster that along the x-axis. Okay, I'm also going to add in a ramp plunge move, and we're going to give that a plunge move of 1/2 inch. Okay, so ramps. So the more you kind of get used to machining projects, the more you become very conscious of your tools wear and tear. So adding in ramp plunge moves just prevents the cutter from just plunging directly down into your material. You're just giving it a little bit of a diagonal so it can just vertically and gradually kind of cut at an angle, and just gives you a bit of a better life on the tool. It also reduces heat buildup as well, so just a little top tip for you there. Right then, so give that a name, 3D roughing, and we could go ahead and press calculate. Right then, so here's our preview. Let's go and preview that toolpath. Okay, so this is what it's going to take away for us for the 3D roughing toolpath. Okay, everything else is going to be machined with our smaller tool, which we're going to do now. Right then, so with that vector, we could go in and use the 3D finish toolpath. So with the 3D finish toolpath, we're going to go with an 1/8 inch ball nose because I can see that's already in there. So I'm just going to use the edit option and just check over some of the settings that I've got in there, make sure I'm happy and confident with those. And then again, we're going to use the selected vector, which is the same vector that we had previously for the for the 3D roughing toolpath. Then we're going to have a boundary offset. Again, we're going to go with the same diameter as the tool, so an 1/8. And we've got an area machine strategy. So offset, this will kind of just do this round and round and round and round. Okay, if you are going to do this, highly recommend that you use a step over retract. That just means that for every contour that it machines, it's going to actually lift to the next contour, drop down, machine it, rather than it just remain solidly touching the material, where you can sometimes see evidence of that line. Okay, so if you ever get that, just try putting in a retract, small step up there. In this case, I'm going to go with a raster strategy, and we're going to raster that at an angle of 0 degrees, which is horizontal. If we went with 90, that would do that vertically, and then anything in between would do that at an angle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and press calculate there, and that's just going to take a moment to do that. Okay, so there is our preview, right? So let's actually preview that, see how it looks. Okay, beautiful, got a nice finish there. I'm happy with the border that we've got. It's all good. And that's pretty much it. Wonderful, super happy with that. Okay, so you can see that dome coming through. That looks real smart. Right then, so let's just put that back in Z, and we're going to close out of the preview. Right, next up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at VCarving our text, and we're going to VCarve that text into our composite model. So remember that flat area that we created here through the 0 plane. So with that, let's go over to the VCarve toolpath. So for the VCarve toolpath, what we need to do is we need to basically give that some information. So start depth, we're going to go 0 here. We're going to select a tool. In this case, I've already got one selected, 60-degree, 1/4 inch V-bit tool here. And then as we're VCarving into a 3D part, you must remember to use this option here to project the toolpath onto a 3D model. Okay, so if we don't do that, it's going to take our 0 start point. So I want to show you what's going to happen if we don't do that. So if we calculate that and then preview it, you're not going to see anything because it's essentially starting at 0, and when it comes down, we've already machined that away. So what we need to do is we need to go in there and say I want to project that toolpath onto the 3D model, in which case the software will basically take what it can see in the composite model and it uses that as its start point. So if you ever find that you are trying to VCarve into 3D and that doesn't work, then make sure you've got this option checked. So we'll calculate that and then we'll go ahead and we'll preview it, and there you have it. Okay, perfect, that looks good. Okay, so what we see here is exactly what we're going to look at when we come to machine it when we do that. Okay, one other little thing here as well, if you're thinking about painting the letters, let's say black, top tip whilst you're in the preview toolpath form is just to give that toolpath a colour. So select the toolpath you want to colour. So here we've got VCarve, say toolpath colour black. Okay, it just gives you a nice idea of how that will look when you come to paint it up. Okay, right then, so let's close out. So we've got our roughing, our finish, and we've got our VCarve. Next up, we're going to look at pocketing our buttonholes. Okay, another top tip for you there. If you drag a box, so just click and drag with your mouse, anything that touches that box will be selected. That's going from bottom right to top left. If you did it the other way around, okay, so if you wanted to go from top left down to top bottom, only items in the actual selection will be selected. Okay, top tip. Right, and so we're going to select those. And then we're going to go over into the pocket toolpath. So all we're going to do here is we're just going to machine into those holes all the way through the material to create those holes. So the cut depth for this, okay, now if by any chance you ever forgot what you set your material thickness to, I have a super top tip for you. If you pressed Z followed by equals, it will input whatever it is that you've put into the software. So that's cool. I use that all the time. So Z equals, that's pulling out your material thickness there. Again, we're going to go with a 1/4 inch end mill. We're going to do that in an offset strategy, and we're just going to give that a name, call that pocket, press calculate, preview that, there it is. Okay, so there are your holes. Next up, we're going to close out. We're just going to add a little bit of detail to those holes. So let's take a look. So, I mean, these holes are fine as they are, but we could just add a little bit of some finer details just to make it a little bit more button-like. So to do that, we're going to take those same vectors, and this time we're going to go into the profile toolpath. We're going to cut down a very minuscule amount of 0.05. I'm going to select a tool. I'm going to use that 1/8 inch ball nose, and we're going to machine on the vector. Okay, so the center of the tool will be on the vector. And then we're going to make sure that we project that toolpath onto the 3D model because we need that on the model itself. And then we could go ahead and press calculate. We can preview that, and there we have it. Okay, so you can see just those tiny little details have just made that a little bit better. Right then, so close out. Last but not least, we're going to look at creating our cutout toolpath. So with the outer vector selected, this is where we're going to say, look, software, I want you to make a cutout where it's going to cut it out of my block of material. So with that vector, we're going to go over to the profile toolpath. And so in the profile toolpath, we want to cut all the way through. So you'll remember Z equals 0.6. Right then, so we're going to select a tool. So we're going to go back to our 1/4 inch end mill, select that. I'm going to machine this on the outside this time. So the outer part of our tool is going to, our tool is going to touch the outside of this vector to cut that out. I'm going to add tabs to the toolpath. So if you don't have a vacuum hold down system like myself, or you don't want to use the magic carpet tape, which I love that technique, that always holds everything down for me, or even the masking tape super glue trick, that's a top one as well. That I've not actually tried that, but I've heard lots of people do it. I've seen it in lots of videos, and it's one that I'm going to try. But otherwise, let's add tabs to the toolpath just to keep our parts secured to our material block. So we check that option here, add tabs to toolpath. We give that a length, in this case 1/4 inch, thickness. So we're going to go with a fairly thin tab, but it's enough to keep it together, an 1/8 inch. Then we're going to use this option here to edit the tabs, okay? I'm going to give that 3 tabs, nice strong number there, 3. First tab at machining start point, no, I do not want that, okay? Don't want that on my start point. And then we're just going to go ahead and add the tabs, okay? So you can see we've got a tab there, and a tab down here. And if you wanted to, you can move them by clicking it and moving it along. In this case, I like where it is. I've just clicked that again, so that's deleted it. So we can click that to reinsert it. Right then, so there are our tabs. We can close out. Some other little top tips as well in terms of your overall finish. Take a look at ramps and leads. Okay, so I'm going to look at adding in a lead. So the idea of the lead is it's just basically it's going to start outside and it's going to lead into the edge of our part, the actual cutout itself, and this just helps prevent marking the edges of our overall piece, because we're starting away from the material and just leading in. So we're going to do a circular lead in, a radius of 1/2 inch, make it 1/2 inch long, and we're also going to do a lead out. Ramp, as I mentioned before about ramp, so we don't want that cutter coming in vertically, we want it coming in at an angle, so we're going to add ramps to the toolpath in a smooth fashion, where we're also going to ramp on the lead itself. So as it's leading in, that's where it will also ramp in as well. So we've got to think about the quality of your finished part as well as the wear and tear of your tooling as well. Okay, so that's that. Give that a name. We can just call that profile and cut out like so. Calculate that. Okay, so here you can see, we just zoom in, so you can see the ramp and the lead. Okay, so it's ramping in, it's going to go round and it's going to lead back out, pull over, ramp and lead in, go around and then come back out, and so on. Okay, but obviously if you wanted to, you can take a look at the file to give that a closer look to see how that's working, and then we can preview that toolpath, and there it is. We maximize the 3D view. There is your Mother's Day button. Okay, got your tabs, we've got our nice VCarve, we've got the detail on the actual buttonholes. All of this was done was made from 3D in VCarve, and that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Okay, so we're just going to jump out now. So thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project. I'm just going to take a moment to check the chat just to ensure that I haven't missed anything new that's come in. Okay, so we've got looks like the release notes for 10.022 aren't updated yet. Anything big or little or just little bug fixes. Okay, typically they are little bug fixes. I'm not too sure about the release notes. Hopefully Vectric can actually pipe in and answer that one. I'm not too sure on that. But yeah, I think otherwise everyone looks like you've enjoyed it. I'm glad. It's nice to see a lot of you in today as well. We really do appreciate you guys joining us. So thank you very much. So just so you know, we are going to be sticking around comments wise. So if you do find that you've got a question on this project afterwards, that you thought, oh, do you know what, I forgot to ask this and I'd really like to know, please just comment it on the video and I will be on hand to answer that comment for you. Hopefully I can help out with your questions. And then next week we are going to be live again. So Todd is going to take the hot seat this time. So we take it in turns just to give each other a little bit of a breather. So he'll be on hand next week with a cool project for you guys. If you like this project, then you can simply go and download it from your V&Co account, which is portal.vectric.com, or you could just go to the link at the bottom here, so directly from our website in the free projects page, and you can get that from there. So if you like this video, then please give us a thumbs up, and if you've not yet subscribed to our channel, then please hit the subscribe button for all of the latest updates on the videos that we will be releasing. So thank you so much for watching, happy making, and most importantly, stay safe. Catch you again next week.